Welcome to Noon Wednesday. I'm Marissa Wojcik, multimedia journalist with Here and Now on PBS Wisconsin. Today is October 27. After 10 years since Wisconsin last redrew its political lines, redistricting is happening again, now statewide. The last time this process happened in 2011 was so significant that it changed the nature of Wisconsin politics for the next decade. In fact, it was so important to Wisconsin's history that two Wisconsin public radio journalists made an entire podcast series about it called WPR Reports Mapped Out. And Bridget Bowden and Sean Johnson join me now. Thank you both so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So Bridget, I'll start with you. This series, by the way, which is just amazing. It's so rich in audio and context, but it starts by contrasting the scene of the 2011 Act 10 protests outside the Capitol with that of the Republican-hired lawyers who are across the street quietly working away inside the map room, then takes us all the way through the history with the newest episode released today called Locked In. So this is a very complex topic. Is this podcast for the political wonks, or is it for those who, like myself, need a little bit of a history lesson?
So I think that the podcast is really for both of those groups of people. We start out in episode 1 with a very basic lesson about what is redistricting. So if you're one of those people who is starting at square one, maybe hasn't even really heard of redistricting before, we got you. You can start at episode 1. You will learn all about what it means and the impacts of redistricting. And then in the later episodes, we'll get into some really meaty details about what happened in 2011, what it meant for the state, and also what's going to happen this year. So I think that both of those groups of people would enjoy this podcast.
And Sean, what did Wisconsin's maps and the landscape of state politics look like before and after these maps were drawn? And just why exactly were 2011's maps so consequential?
Well, if you look at just a couple years before these maps were drawn, and it's hard to imagine now, but we had Democratic control of state government in Wisconsin. And really, we should say more broadly, you had a Democrat in the White House, Democratic control of Congress, Democratic control of everything. And, the way things typically have historically gone in those situations is that in the midterm election, the party out of power has good year. And that was the case for Republicans in 2010. And they were, swept into power in 2011 and just had an enormous kind of pent up agenda that, that they passed that year that I think you could definitely say will, be part of Wisconsin's history for years to come when you're talking about changing union rights, changing voting laws, firearm laws, you name it. This was a chance for Republicans to do what they wanted to do. As part of that, they passed this map and, that allows them to, borrow from our title today, kind of lock in those decisions from that 2011 session. And then beyond that, for the next decade, they're never really in any serious threat of losing that majority. So you saw a kind of ambitious Republican agenda throughout the decade.
Bridget, you spoke to Wisconsin voters who live the impacts of these maps, as well as people who have tried to run for the state legislature. What did you learn from those personal stories?
Right. So we wanted to travel to various parts of the state and look at what this 2011 map really meant. So we looked at the maps and we saw a few places where there were distinct changes that happened in the 2011 map. And so we went and found some people who could tell us what it's meant, people who live in those places. So we talked to a woman who lives in DeForest, Wisconsin, for example, which is just north of Madison. She's a member of the village board, and DeForest in 2011 was split up into 3 different assembly districts and 3 different Senate districts. So she told us how, as a local elected official, when she tries to talk to her state representatives and state senators, she actually has to contact 6 different people because there are 6 different people who represent the area of DeForest. So, that's a really tangible impact of this map. We also went to Eau Claire, where we met a woman named Wendy Sue Johnson, who, as you said, did try to run for office. She's a Democrat, and she ran in a district that is now a heavily Republican district. And what she told us is that she'll never try to run again. She just feels like she doesn't have any sort of shot. So you can actually see in people's real lives what the 2011 map did across the state.
And Sean, 2011's maps eventually wound up in the U.S. Supreme Court, where the ideas of a partisan advantage versus a partisan gerrymander were really kind of picked apart and put on stage. This current round of redistricting happening right now is likely to also end up in the courts. So can you explain what is the difference between a partisan advantage versus a gerrymander, and why is it so difficult to make a case against a partisan gerrymander specifically?
I'm not sure where you'd say the line is between a partisan advantage and a partisan gerrymander. The courts have decided they're just not going to draw that line, especially the federal court system has decided, because of a decision by the U.S. Supreme Court, that partisan gerrymandering cases are not something that the federal court system is going to decide, that they're not justiciable is the word that they use. And so they're not denying that partisan gerrymandering and map drawing that gives one party an advantage over another is happening. They're just saying, we are not going to decide when it becomes so severe that you have violated the constitutional rights of the party that is not drawing the map, the party that is not in power. And so as we enter, the 2021-22 round of redistricting, as you mentioned, we know this is going to court. We're not quite sure which court is going to decide it because right now it's before the state Supreme Court and a federal panel. Right now, the state Supreme Court gets first crack at it. But what we do know is that the hopes of some Democrats, specifically in Wisconsin, that we would have, kind of a baseline for when a map gets too partisan, and that you could bring kind of, that kind of case in 2021. That's not going to happen. So they're going to have to fight this out on other grounds.
Bridget, there's audio of Arnold Schwarzenegger, a Republican, and he's with the prosecution following the arguments before the Supreme Court. And it's great audio. He says, "Hasta la vista, gerrymandering." In Wisconsin, some might see this as a Democrats versus Republicans issue. Nationally, is it bipartisan, or is it one party having domination over the other?
Right. So you're absolutely right. In Wisconsin, this is an issue that we mostly hear Democrats calling for redistricting reform. But across the country, it really depends on your political circumstances. So in other places, maybe places that have been long controlled by Democrats, where Democrats have had control over map drawing, there are Republicans who are calling for redistricting reform. Great example of this is Illinois. Illinois is controlled by Democrats, and we see Republican lawmakers there asking for very similar reforms as we hear from Wisconsin Democrats. Other states like Maryland have also seen Democratic gerrymanders, and then you see Republicans being the ones asking for reform. So it's an issue that is not one party's issue or another party's issue. It really depends on the political circumstances of your state. In our final episode 6, you'll hear a little more about that. That's coming out next week, and you'll hear from some other Republicans who have championed this issue.
So, Sean, if Wisconsin's constitution says that the legislature must draw the maps of the legislature's own districts, isn't that a conflict of interest? And at this point, if those districts are already locked in to have a certain advantage for Republicans, is that going to continue to compound? And is there any way out of it? Is there any other way that this that these maps can or should be drawn?
I think the question of whether it's a conflict of interest for the legislature, I think we can look at it practically and say, yeah, they have a definite conflict of interest there just from a practical, right in front of your own eyes perspective. But in terms of the law, the Constitution says the legislature does it. The idea being that the legislature is kind of the voice of the people. And so it's definitely within their purview to do that. They are going to get a chance to draw the maps. Anything they do needs the approval of the governor, though. The governor is right now Democratic Governor Tony Evers, and he's already sent pretty clear signs that he is going to veto the map that Republicans have developed. He's calling it gerrymandering 2.0. So that leaves us in the courts. And there is a chance that a court, the state Supreme Court could say, look, we don't want to mess with the map too much. We're going to make as few changes as possible. That's what Republicans are hoping the state Supreme Court will say. There's also a chance that the court, if it's not the state Supreme Court, it could be a federal court, says we are not beholden to look at this map from a decade ago. We're going to redraw this map using, objective criteria and, do the best version of the map we can do right now in 2021. We're not beholden to decisions from the legislature of 2011. I think at this point in the process, you could definitely see it going either way.
And Bridget, you already touched on this a little bit, but what can we expect from future episodes? You have an episode next week, but you also tease a little bit that there might be some more coming even farther after next week.
Yeah, so next week, next Wednesday, is the last episode of our first batch of episodes. And it's sort of about all of the options of what could happen this year. But that said, redistricting is happening this year. So we will be following up whenever whatever happens is going to happen. And we'll be following up with episodes that keep you informed on that.
All right, and lastly, Sean, you reported on this for WPR as it was happening the last 10 years. Did anything surprise you specifically as you dug into the archives, talked with some of the key players, and what specifically are you looking for as the current political fight goes forward?
I think that whenever you spend a lot of time on one topic, like we have here, and you really analyze everyone's words from a decade ago, I think what struck me is just how, I guess, fuzzy the redistricting criteria that map makers have to follow can be. You can decide as a map maker, the legislature, that we're going to emphasize one criteria over here, maybe keeping urban communities together. And then in another part of the state, say, we're gonna split this city apart, and satisfying two completely different criteria. But as long as you kind of say, that's what we're doing, we're following these criteria, you have a lot of leeway as a legislature, especially when the governor's from your own party. So I guess it was just listening back to some of the debates and some of what sounded at the time like really, technical jargon. Now, a decade later, you can kind of see why it was presented that way and the power of those words and what they ultimately meant. That is kind of the foundation of power in Wisconsin, is this kind of gray area of what makes a map okay.
All right, we leave it there. Sean Johnson and Bridget Bowden, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
It's a really great series. You can find it at wpr.org/presents. And for more from Here and Now in PBS Wisconsin, you can visit pbswisconsin.org/news. And thank you so much for joining us on Noon Wednesday.